Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Night Owl here on RCI TV Season 4, coming at you the opening round tonight from Bathurst. Hope you all are well and are ready for more craziness that is Night Owl. We will get into what makes this season interesting and different in just a little bit. I'm Jesse Lee. I'm joined again by Ryan Mawson and a very special appearance by Jake the Bosmeister Boswell doing the broadcasting tonight. And Ryan, it is back Night Owl and it is crazier than ever.
Yes, hello Jesse, welcome back. Yeah, welcome to season 4, the season where we like to mix it up a little bit at Night Out, which we'll get into in a little bit. So great to see a lot of the familiar faces, some new faces for the new season. And yeah, if you finished last season here, you've already done your pre-season testing, haven't you? Back at Bathurst, we'll see what they've got cooked up for us this time.
Well, it's going to be very interesting because every team here today picked their car without knowing what the tracks were going to be for the season after the registration period. They were told what the tracks were going to be, but there's an extra little special nugget in there, and that nugget is the pit stop requirements for every round this season are randomized, and the teams apparently only learn what they're going to be 30 minutes prior to the race session going live. Absolutely crazy. And it's going to change every single week. Well, some things that have also changed, Ryan, we have a lot of new names in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot promoted up. We see some familiar names that have gone into pro, and we see a lot that have moved up from the silver rank. Got quite a big field for the opening race at Bathurst as well. So yeah, we definitely see there's a name that we know and love. Tyler Jason Lavalle did a phenomenal drive last season in his Porsche, the silver class. Has now promoted himself in the 81 Audi. So we'll see what they can do in the pro field.
Yeah, we sure will. Some other things that are, well, sort of different to us is, like we said, we ended the season here in season 3. We're starting here in season 4. And there are a lot of interesting car selections out there. We've got some Porsches in the field. And I think perhaps the most interesting thing that caught my eye is we have a bunch of Lamborghinis.
Yeah, quite a few Lamborghinis. The Lamborghini, though, admittedly, having had to drive this car at an endurance race at Bathurst before, the Lamborghini is very nice around Bathurst. It's a very planted car. Might not be the fastest thing in an absolute straight line, but I mean, over a lap, it is really, really nice to drive. And that is half the reason at Bathurst. Oh, ho, ho! Synchronized spinning to start the season as the GTR and the Ferrari both go off. Luckily, an out lap, you've still got time. We do have sort of the usual Night Owl. It's a little bit more time this time. We've got a 15-minute qualifying to get your times in. So yeah, you got a couple of laps to get back out there.
Well, one of the other big changes this season is, well, we have a significant portion of RCI staff in this race. Now, we have traditionally had one or two. Of course, Benjamin Heilman, who is better known as Stewie, a broadcaster for us, he is in the series again, but there's several other drivers and teams here, and I've heard some of them have funny names. Of course, we have Ted Edwards in the race, as well as Mike Jones is here as well. I'm forgetting some, surely. We have, let's see here. I'm missing
Sebastian
somebody.
Brunier.
We do have Seb Brunier coming back tonight out, but there's one other one that I am missing, and it will absolutely kill me. But it will come to me eventually. But I've heard that they have funny names or interesting names, as everybody is on a team. So that's interesting as well. Also, the other little kick as qualifying everybody out on their first quick laps, they will have a drop round this season, meaning that their worst finishing race the entire season, it's basically a mulligan. It will not count, but you don't want to use that up in round 1.
No, exactly. It might be beneficial to some cars like the Porsche that, they're not expecting to have the best times at Bathurst. We've always said that historically Porsche is amazing over a lap when you've got no one in front of you, but in a race they do seem to struggle overtaking just because of the lack of straight line speed. But yeah, it makes it a lot tighter as well. And I mean, last year we didn't even need tightness. We had silvers fighting right up until the last round. The last few laps we were working it out with pieces of paper. So yeah, it'll make the times even more interesting as we come to the end of the first flying lap. Tyler, Jason Lavalle going a little bit wide through the chase there, but not invalidating the lap. So we'll see what provisional pole will be this time round in the 81 Audi. Up to the line they go, and it will be a 2-minute .648. A good first time on the board.
Not bad at all for the first time, though I suspect there will be some closer times ran. Eckhart and Heilman come in to take the second and third spot, respectively, as several of the other teams coming in. Conway slots into fourth, then quickly down to fifth as Rogers puts him back a spot. And of course, we have Pro and Silver together on the track this season. So there are two different championships going at the same time. So we'll pay attention to both of them. They are not racing for overall glory, but they are racing for in class. And it's going to be a crazy season with two different classes and two different speeds, presumably on the track. But just because you are in the silver class, well, that doesn't mean that you can't get up there and compete with some of the pro drivers. And my question to you, Ryan Mawson, do you think a silver could steal an overall win this season?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it last season, if you remember, at Misano in the rain. The silver Porsche of Lavalle, and there was a silver Ferrari, which the name of the driver escapes me currently. But yeah, they took overall. So it is very, very likely. We're seeing a bit of an action replay. I think this is a car in the BMW just having a little bit of a wobble going into
Oh,
the
yeah.
dipper. It's so easy to do, and down there, the track is so tight. There's basically no runoff there. You are, as soon as you've started to lose the car, it's just sort of damage control at that point.
Well, this is the other RCI staff member whose name escaped me simply because I couldn't find them on the board. I thought I might be seeing things. But this is Joshua Devonshire, and he is one of the other RCI members here today. So, well, I think it's a point of pride, though, Ryan, that if you are in this race and you do beat any of the staff, but if you beat all of them, I think that's an extra little incentive. And some of the drivers may have that on their minds today and throughout the series. We are going to have a event where I think it's a charity event where you're supposed to beat the RCI staff. That is not this series, but all the same, it will be good practice. So Sonor has taken the pole, the 199 at a 2-minute .144, the fastest time over Lavalle by some 3.5 tenths. And that is the quickest time as Harry Conway comes back around and slots into the third place. Dylan in fourth, two Audis, two Lamborghinis. It's all the same company. What's the difference?
Yeah, the Audis and the Lamborghinis. Very sort of strange car. A lot of people, when they drive them, you drive the Lamborghini, is a very sort of stable mid-engine car, really, as mid-engine cars go. And you think, yeah, this is very good. It's very stable. I'll try it slightly faster on lap time, brother, the Audi, and you're thrown into mid-engine snappy death that then becomes an absolute handful in the wet. Because yeah, even though they are the same car underneath, completely different balance of performance and slightly different aero being different bodywork. But yeah, the mid-engine sort of dominating themselves here at Bathurst, as we've seen mid-engines all the way down to P5, and then we have the BMW of Akar in P6, which that will just be an absolute monster on the straights, especially one to look for in the race. Because I mean, Bathurst, half of the time is a quick time over the mountain, half of the time is those two massive straights that you've got.
It very much is indeed. Can Tyler Jason Lavalle do anything for team at PSR this time around, and it will be an improvement. A 2 minute point 198, not quite good enough. About half a tenth off of the 199th time, but the intent is very much there. And with nothing in it, I would consider that within striking zone. Speaking of which, what can Chad Dillon for Barlow Motorsport do in the 77 Lambo? They can move themselves up into third at a 2 minute point 519, just about 4 tenths off of the pace, but jumps Harry Conway. Well, here's Ryan Renoir for Renee. I think I actually just might. I'm not sure if that's a livery or not, but the 732 down into the ninth place. Most of the Lamborghinis somewhere near the top 10. Could they possibly improve? Looks like they might, as Chad Dillon comes into pit road after that quick lap that took him into third place. We'll have to see if Renoir can get up there with the other Lambos.
Yeah, it's currently trending up, still holding that time through the chase, which is, quite a tricky corner, a very blind exit as well. Comes across the line, and that moves them up into P6.
Looking good. Well, this is a car that we expect to do great things this season. This is Acar's racing team, Acar Racing BMW. And they're down in eighth place. No doubt they will be looking to improve here, and I think they might just do that in the 32. Hustling around the final turn, coming to the line and up into sixth place. That is more like it, but still a bit off the pace. And here comes Sunwa around again for Peepo Clown Sport. Okay, I get it. I like the names. And the first 59 of the day, a 159.757, throws down the gauntlet and absolutely obliterates. Are you surprised at all that it's Lamborghini and Audi up front so far?
Not really. They are very, very strong cars here at Bathurst, and I mean, especially with the lovely 16-degree weather that we've got going on right now, that'll really be helping these cars over the mountains and down the straights. The naturally aspirated cars, they do kind of struggle when the temps get hotter and hotter. They start losing more power, but I mean, with all this cold air around to chew on, these things are loving it. So no, I'm not really surprised that the mid-engines are dominating. It will be interesting to see in the race, though, as I says, the front line or the straight line speed of that BM will be a fair interesting thing to see, when it's loaded up with race fuel. The other thing is that because the strategy once again is now open, this race being a 1 liter of fuel like the classics that we used to have, what do you do in your mid-engines? The Audi chews a lot more fuel than you might happen to think. You need to really, really rev it out to get the most out of it. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens in the race here at Bathurst.
I think you have to put minimum fuel in just to make your strategy work, is what I would do. I don't think you have much of a choice because you have to get off the line good here.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's like, the great endurance cars like the Bentleys, the BM to an extent is very good on fuel. Some of those cars, I think they're going to start coming into play. Flamgoat crosses the line, is an improvement, a 2 minute point 9. That moves them up to P6, the highest silver car by a good country mile at the moment. Another 2 and a bit tenths off from his fellow silver, as that's now taken out by Rogers in the 119.
Haven't talked about Daniel Jose Jorge yet. Flashing, I believe that's Seb Brunier in front of him for the Smooth Operators GP Ferrari. What will they do? Top 5 for the 778. Gets in there amongst all the Italian marquees. That wouldn't be a bad starting spot. Daniel Jose Jorge is one of those guys that I expect to be a factor in this championship as it goes down to the wire. And, well, you can sure spot some of the RCI guys because they have shown up in cars that, well, they're eye-catching, and I don't mean that as a positive most of the time, but they're definitely distinctive. We'll put it that way.
You gotta have a bright paint job. It's like a chameleon, except some people are, the entire opposite. They like to stand out rather than blend in with the racetrack of the usual sort of dark colors. I mean, I was looking out the window earlier when I seen a McLaren go by that was all purple with gold wheels, which, speaking of, is exactly what's on
Speaking
the stream.
speaking of the devil, Mike Jones for Crest Pro Health Racing for in the number 4 team. Him and his teammate, I believe he's teammates with Ted Edwards, but part of the Crest Pro Health team. And he explained to me what why they went with Crest Pro Health, which is a teeth sort of toothpaste, I should say. And he says that the car reminds him of the tube of toothpaste. So that's very interesting on him. But of course, Mike Jones, who is a sort of a silver driver now this season, up into the stream split because of the mix between the two. He's going to be interested. I'll be interested to see what Mike Jones can do as far as damage is concerned with some of these other teams. Alex Rogers in the 119 Aston is going to knock a couple of drivers down, taking away the final spot in the top 5. Count him in as 5th. Chad Dillon's back out there looking for more. He took 3rd away from Conway earlier. This will, I think, be his last lap for Barwell Motorsport. I think that's just a normal livery. In fact, I don't think he's actually racing for Barwell Motorsport, but either way, be interested to see if he can continue to improve, maybe get up there in between the Audis, take away a front row spot perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. The Barwell car is a standard livery. It's ran in British GT. It's a car that I've watched. But yeah, so far they're sort of just about holding time. They're currently not improving or losing it. But that does mean sometimes you get to the end of the lap, and that is where all the time for that driver is. Harry Conway, though, trending up, coming up to the line, round the last corner, and that will put him up to 3rd for his finished lap, 2:02.
Well, I wonder what the rebuttal is going to be from Dillon here. He knows that he has been bumped down to the 4th place position. Coming to the line, does he have anything? It does look like he had a quicker lap, a 2:366, but not good enough to upset Conway. Well, this is the shock to me. Eckhart all the way back in 12th place. Could this be a better lap for him to get him at least inside the top 10? Coming to the line, and it will. 9th place for Eckhart, a 2:998, and only a few bullets left to dodge in the back part of the field. Ben Norton being one of those for the Antivirus Racing Bentley team. Hopefully he'll be able to work his way up there. We have a ton of teams and drivers in this championship here in this track. It is going to be, Ryan, a very, very busy and clogged racetrack about halfway through this thing.
I won't even say halfway through that. I'm going to say that the start is going to be a real spectacle, you know, with all these 30-odd drivers trying to go through turn 1 and up to the second turn. It'll definitely be an interesting sight to see. Ben Norton is trending up at the minute. Up and up, if they can hold it through the chase. So this should put them quite well for the silver class battle. One of the many silver class cars that we have, and one of the few Bentleys that we have as well in this season. Nice to see the Bentley a little bit more represented. I think we had 1 or 2 last season. And that will put them at P17 overall.
Well, that does qualifying for round 1 of Night Owl Season 4, and a little correction to an earlier comment. Mike Jones is actually teamed up with Jordan Daly, and Ted Edwards is with Nathaniel McConnell. I had that backwards in my head, which I shouldn't have done, because Mike Jones told me about that about 15 minutes before we went live today. The problem with that, though, is, Ryan, I don't really listen to Mike Jones.
It's like white noise. You sort of glaze over when things are happening.
Definitely indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here is your grid for round number 1 here at Bathurst for Night Owl. Sunwat will lead them away with LaValle on the front row. Those 2 Audis are going to have to fight down into Hell Corner to get things started. Behind them, Harry Conway and Dillon share the second row of the grid in Lamborghini. It is an all Audi group lockout for the front two rows. Beyond that, Rogers and Sones, Jorge, and Flamger. And then rounding out the top 10, it's Herzog and Eckhar will be the back half of the top 10. Behind them, Knappen and Litherland, Renoir and IPEC, and Pierce will round out the top 15. Heilman, Norton, Brunier, Devonshire, Rodriguez is your top 20. And behind them, Edwards, Baumeister, or Meister. We're still not sure how to pronounce the 48 Porsche's name. And of course, Foch in the number 8 Lamborghini. And that's as far as I can see, but I know there are at least 29 cars in this race today. That is a absolute boatload. It's the most we've had in the streamed split in a very long time here at Night Owl. It is going to be incredibly difficult to work around traffic because even if they are slower, a lot of these teams still have considerable pace, and they don't have to lay over necessarily. It would be nice that they did not impede the leaders, but you just can't be sure. There's my favorite car in the race, by the way, the 101 GTR. We've got one of them, folks, for this season. Ryan Mawson, favorite car in the race this season?
Oh well, with my fanboyisms, I would have to put it to the Bentley, and nice to see the familiar face of Ben Litherland back in his Bentley. So that'll be the car that I'm sort of watching. Qualified a little bit further down in P12, but obviously start of a new season, we'll see what they can do. And yeah, you were talking about how many cars? I believe the start of this race, when I was looking on my timing board earlier, we have 34 cars sat on the grid right now.
That's going to get a humongous from me, and they all look fantastic. We got a lot of new names that we aren't quite accustomed to, so we do apologize if we mess any of those up. We are learning like everybody else, and this is going to be a very interesting season, and it all starts here. It's important to get the best possible start you can, but at a place like Bathurst, you just cannot afford to make a big mistake. Every driver in this championship will get a drop round that will be their worst finish of the season. Like I said earlier, you do not want to waste that here at Bathurst. You'd like to leave here with that mulligan in your pocket, but you know as good as I do, Ryan, somebody is going to use up their mulligan right here, and it could be in turn one.
Yeah, there's so many places on this track that you can meatball the car, end up retiring, and all sorts of things like that. But yes, lowest scoring round will be dropped. But as you says, you don't necessarily want to use it up, even if you class. So even if you had a race, and you think, oh, that was a bad race. I didn't get many points in that race. We've seen it. We've been sat here with pens and paper calculating out down to the last race, to the last few points in sort of silver and pro categories before. So your lowest scoring race can still bag you the championship quite a lot of times. We've seen it multiple times here in RCI Night Owl. And yeah, it's Bathurst. If you leave here without having the right side of the car damaged in some kind of way, did you really go to Bathurst?
Yeah, I think you remind me of that every time we come here, and we were talking in pre-race about how we're not sure that any of us have ever left here without some fender being dinged or scratched. So a fair point indeed on that account, and of course the fact that your lowest round might be what wins you this championship. I know that sounds weird, folks, but it is true. If you strive for top 10 and you get top 10 every time, technically speaking, you're more likely to win the whole thing. And if your lowest round is still a top 10, well, that might still be enough to get you the championship over somebody who had a round where they finished 30th. You just don't know. Two different championships going on, the pro and the silver. These are the best of the best for Night Owl. Why do we call it Night Owl? Well, it's very simple because it takes place later in the evening. And for all of you that are with us, we thank you for joining us here on RCI TV, late night on your Saturday night, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. And we hope that you enjoy this race with us as we are about to get going. All the cars released from the grid out on the siding lap. The next time they come on the front straightaway, it will be under full steam and into that very treacherous hell corner. And now we're going to go to Ryan Mawson, who is going to tell us exactly who's going to win this race today.
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot here, Jesse. I'm gonna
I
end up
love it.
commentators cursing someone. Oh, it is such a difficult one at Bathurst because you can pick the person who's just got the pace and go, oh well, it's fine. They're the fastest. They will win. But how many times have we seen super fast people, clatter it into the wall? But yeah, up the top, a couple of the names though that I would say that are going to be consistent at least. I would say Lavalley and Conway are definitely going to be ones to look out for in the consistency region. Sonar obviously holds the pole position, so it's their race to lose essentially. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm gonna go with a bit of a wild card. I'm gonna say that Laval is going to show us something spectacular.
Well, folks, there's a lot of truth in what Ryan Mawson's talking about. I got some stats for you real quick. In the last 4 races RCI's been here, the fastest car has won here 1 time.
Yep.
It does not matter. You wouldn't believe it if you were told this, but it's actually one of the more competitive tracks. It trends on the most lead changes of any track we go to simply because it is so treacherous. One mistake puts you into the wall and then swiftly into the pit lane most of the time. So that sort of preys on lead changes, and that does happen quite a bit. That's not anything that the 199 wanted to hear. Probably one of the more interesting names of a team this season, Peepo Clown Sport. I'd like to see that emoji on Twitch at some point. the sport version, not the normal Peepo Clown. I know that's a thing. I'm hip. I'm with it. Anyway, the 199. Not really warming his tires as much as Lavalley here. Could this be a sort of a tactic, or could it be Lavalley desperately wanting his tires to gain pressure? Only 17 degrees C, track optimum, no rain in sight, completely sunny here, and wind looks like it's out of the north, 7-kilometer wind coming straight at you down Conrad. But other than that, a picture perfect evening for racing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 199 is brake riding. There's a couple of ways to warm your tires in ACC, but one of the more effective versions is, yeah, brake riding. You just hold the gas, hold the brake, wait until they heat up, and then let the excess heat from the brakes warm the tires up. But then you do have to weave a little bit to get the skins warmed up. Obviously, that will warm the carcass up. It'll make sure that they don't immediately lose heat, but the surface of the tire will still be pretty cold. We got 2x2 for the first time here at Bathurst, round 1 of Night Owl.
Well, folks, here they come, 2x2, as far as the eye can see down through the chase. 1 turn to go. Glad you're with us here. Night Owl Season 4, Race 1 on the mountain. And everybody has to take a pit stop and put 1 liter of fuel. How will that strategy play into the race? Who's going to survive the mountain? And who is going to go home early? We will find out shortly as the green flag is about to drop and we are about to go racing in Night Owl and racing on the mountain, and it is a clean getaway for the 199 into hell corner. Everybody trying to find a single file run. The Lamborghinis do no such thing as they are side by side and many more besides them, and it's a clean break into the first couple of corners as the number 12 has, it appears as if they have entered pit lane, perhaps to drop to the back of the pack, but meanwhile, up at the front, very clean so far.
Very clean, yes, exactly. Nothing through turn 1, even turn 2, looking back a bit. Lamborghini's still fighting. Conway holding on to his third position just about, as the 2 Audis trying to make a break for it. 199 having probably, yeah, the best start you could think of. Cleared them into hell corner and is just about starting to gap them. But yeah, welcome to now the mountain. Foot flat to the floor all the way across. And you've got 59 minutes to survive this absolute madness.
Well, the first time down here through the S's, it's important to get it right. The temperatures probably aren't fully up to temp in the cars or the tires or the brakes, and everybody looking like they've gotten away with it cleanly, at least for the first half. Now, could there be incidents further in the field through the S's? It doesn't look like that has happened. No waved yellow flags, and we may be witnessing a unicorn here, folks. I don't think we've ever seen this. I don't think I've ever seen this in any sim, let alone ACC, and pretty much everybody getting away. And here they come down the Conrad for the first time. Clear leader, the 199. Brian Knappen now under pressure from Ben Litherland. How many times did we see this last season? Litherland versus Knappen.
Ben Litherland up the inside of that big Bentley, showing the Lamborghini what they can do. Does appear, though, that Lamborghini does have a tiny bit of front damage on that splitter. Is now under attack from the Ferrari of Pierce. Yep, diving into the pits is Brian Knappen. So there you go. Obviously, a little bit of a coming together slightly in the back of the field. But that doesn't mean anything, really, folks, because there's no pit window for this. So basically, that pit stop that Brian Knappen is doing now, he can just take as his mandatory pit stop as long as he puts enough fuel in the car. You know, we will see him back in the race again later on.
Well, some of the drivers pre-race were joking in the private chat that they have about, oh, well, if I crash on turn one, I get to pit and get it over with early. That'll work out. They were saying that jokingly, but it's also a legitimate strategy. So there, you see it right there, used to perfection. Maybe fixed a little bit. A couple of cars in pit row, the 39 and the 40 car in the pit lane early. Well, like you said, they may be able to clear that damage if they want to. They do have to take a liter of fuel to clear their mandatory stop, but beyond that, that is up to them. And I think it's an excellent strategy if you did have a less than stellar lap one, and Ryan Renoir touched the wall there a little bit.
Yeah, a slight tap from the 732 Lamborghini, although it will be a sort of a light graze. Once you've started picking up damage in these, you know, you pick up a little bit of right side damage, car gets a little bit unsettled, but you pick up some more damage. Really could become a snowball effect if you don't get on top of it immediately. As there is Samir Foch, number 8 Pro Lamborghini, sort of not really under fire from the 80 behind, but just about in a small little breakaway pack, trying to catch up to the 40. No, that's not the 48 in front. That is the Bentley. That is the 690 of Otti. So it would appear that we have briefly lost a Porsche at some point in that lap.
Well, we have a waved yellow flag somewhere near Skyline of the S's. I think it's going to be the 59 has had a big off through Skyline and into the S's. And I think they've got it just about going the right way, as Daniel Herzog here under attack from Litherland. Litherland is not taking no for an answer here. A lap ago, was trying to overtake a BMW, now trying to get by Herzog in the DH Racing 115.
Yeah, that 115, that Ferrari really showing. I mean, the Ferraris are very, very good in a straight line. The Bentley is sort of a strange one in the Bentley. You would expect it to have a lot of straight line speed, but having driven the car here, I know that that's not necessarily the case. And especially going down through Conrad, you actually have a problem where if you build your car for an entire speed setup, you hit the rev limiter. You top out at 285 kilometers an hour, meaning it's kind of pointless to go for a full speed setup. But Ben Litherland just about hanging on to the back of the 115 of Herzog. We'll see if they can catch back up over the mountain and resume that battle.
Well, Samir Foch made out like an absolute bandit last lap. They were 22nd or 21st, and they got all the way up to 19. I suspect somebody in front of them had a little bit of an incident, and they were able to get through there, but done a fantastic job as Foch in the number 8 Lamborghini, but Basil in the 80 Audi is right on the back of them. Now, that's not for a position in class, but that will mean very little to them, especially to Fazil, who has to get by Foch to get to Audi, who is the next silver car where he could gain points from. It's all a delicate game here, you see.
Especially when you are the car in the middle, because, you know, you go for the attack on the car in front, So, for example, if Fazel was to dive up the inside of Foch coming into the chase, you leave the door open for the car behind. It's very much a thing. Foch on the grass in the chase. It's going to bunch people up. Just about keeps the car in the straight line. But is this the signal for Fazel to go up the inside into the last corner? No, it isn't. Foch briefly holds on to the position as we see one of the Bentleys diving into the pits. That is the 621 of Devonshire, taking their mandatory pit stop early as well.
I like it. I like the strategy here early. If you are in the middle of a fight that you probably don't want to be in, and let's be honest, it's slowing you down. And if you have set up your strategy appropriately, you can take this early pit stop and make it to the end. It's not going to be that big of a problem or any problem at all. Gets you out of the traffic, gets you into clean air where you can make lap time. Speaking of making lap time, the 199 absolutely having a field day. They took the pole and they kept it into turn one, and they have now built the better part of a 2-second lead over LaValle, but it is a 52.5-minute race from here on out. It is very important that you keep up the pressure if you're LaValle, and that you keep your mind on the corners in front of you if you are the 199. And don't forget about Harry Conway in third place, holding on to the third step of the podium here. He has Dylan all over him as well.
Yeah, we're going to have to get the fire extinguisher out to put out how the front end of that 199 must be on fire with how fast they're going at the minute. But yeah, Harry Conway just about keeping on to his third position. We've seen these two Lamborghinis having a bit of a fight at the start of the race. Harry Conway hanging on to his third position. But yeah, you can't really take your eyes off the road. You don't want to be looking in the mirror and having that Florio yellow car bearing down on you. Ben Lifflin trying to move again on the 115 Ferrari. Nothing there.
Who was that? Was that Renoir? I think that was Renoir that just went off.
I believe so. That was the black and green Lamborghini of Renoir. Yep, there you go.
First replay of the day here, Ryan. What happens?
Action replay. Oh, just loses it coming through chase. Oh, big impact to the side.
Ooh, that's going to be big, heavy damage on the left side. Luckily, it happened right there in the chase where you can come down pit road. But that is going to be a hefty amount of repair for Renoir, who's running inside the top 10 when that accident occurred.
Yeah, got to get the car fixed up and hopefully get back out there. We see a car under attack from, I believe that's the 19 of Flamger, going around one of the Mercedes. Oh, that's the Ferrari's lost it.
Oh, I think there's going to be more contact there. Just couldn't quite get in there. And yes, it is. The 59 has had contact and has to stop and loses a bunch of positions. And the 19 of Timothy Flamger has absolutely nothing to do here. Has to wait for everybody to go past. Waved yellow flags here. Oh, there's going to be a subsequent spin. Another Ferrari and more contact. The 679 makes contact. That's Jackson. And oh no, another Ferrari comes in and makes heavy contact.
We have a Ferrari specialist, you know. We're collecting them all in the top corner for you for later in the examination. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3. Oh,
that's the 11 too as well. So the 679, the 19, and the 11, all Ferraris going off in the cutting. Could there be something about that corner that those cars all of a sudden don't like, Brian?
Possibly. I mean, yeah, all three Ferraris, so if they're running similar setups, it could just be a handling characteristic of the car. I know the mid-engines are quite prone for, you can't really rough them up as per se. If you unsettle the balance of the car, they will want to, you know, sort of rotate around themselves, which is good when you want the front end to turn in for lap times. You can really tell it to do so. But yeah, perhaps just, perhaps that corner coming into the cutting, they're really not liking it at the minute. Also, the other thing to remember, if you've tested your car on a quali fuel setup, or you've just put 120 litres possible of fuel in it, that is a lot of weight sloshing around in the back of that car.
It sure is. Well, Daniel Jose Jorge's has marched their way up into the 5th place position, but looking for more and trying to get as best as they can. But that is Solnes in the 93 Audi behind them, trying to take that 5th place position away. I was actually looking at Jorge few laps ago. And I was trying to determine if he was catching Dylan or not. I don't think he is, but Solons has definitely caught him for fifth place. And one thing that we know about Jose Jorge's is he is not afraid to go defensive.
No, we saw last year, especially coming into the closing rounds of the Night Owl Season 3, there was some great defensive driving from Daniel. But yeah, last lap for Jose Jorge's at 2:02 and Chad Dillon in front at 2:01.6. So yeah, just sort of slightly edging away. But as we said earlier, we've still got 48 minutes left on the mountain. Being a couple of attempts slower means nothing if you end up, 20 seconds in the pits. Mercedes fighting the wheel down through the dipper, trying to get as close as he can to that. Oh,
He's going to get it.
Number 8 taps the wall. Mercedes through.
I think it's going to be classic. What you were talking about, Ryan, I think you just get a little wrong in the S's here and perhaps going a little wide. Was there a touch perhaps between him and the AMG there? That looked a bit suspicious by my eye.
A bit. It didn't appear like it. I'll have to have a rewatch at some point. But yeah, that was a bit of a strange one coming out of the dipper. Slightly touches the wall. Running slightly wide in the chase.
The 8 now.
Yeah,
certainly
something
some
up with that
damage
car.
you would assume.
Something up with that car, I believe. That is the 13 of Jay Leader going up the inside, one of the silver class cars. Gets it done into the last corner, and that is, once again, that's another one of the McLarens. That's the 197 of Daly.
Looks like Daly's going to get that move done just about in hell, which is just a statement of fact. That's what the corner's called. It always sounds weird to say that, but one way or another, the 197, the other half of the Crest Pro Health Racing team, getting it done, but Foch not done yet. Trying to fight back on the outside. I don't think it's going to go well for him here, but inevitably, pass made. 17th place for Jordan Daly.
Yeah, slots back in. It's a very, very long way around that outside of that corner, especially with all the marbles that's on the outside. And here we see Conway, which he has caught up to Lavalle, but then, yeah, like we were saying earlier about the middle car in the train, look who's right behind him. We've still got the fluoro green car of Dillon.
I'll tell you what I am surprised about. It has been this gap for the last 3 laps, so you can safely assume Conway is pacing Dillon, but Dillon seems to have caught up here. It was hanging right around 6 to 8 tenths, and it had done for several laps, but perhaps Conway now, with the traffic in front of him of Lavalle, is sort of backing up as well, and that's almost a hopeless feeling for Harry Conway, knowing that, oh, I'm catching this guy, but I'm also being slowed up by this guy. And Dillon, who was trading third spot with him in qualifying, they must know their pace is very similar indeed. It's all a strategy match here. Ryan Mawson, if you are Harry Conway here, do you go more offensive or defensive, considering you're literally smack dab in the middle?
Yeah, it's a very tricky one with that. It depends, because if you are in the middle, though, and you are good at defensive driving, you can sort of force someone into a strategy, if you like. You know, if you sort of slow them up enough to where you force them to pit, to go heavier on their fuel and potentially cost them time, and then you can get around the car in front, you can sort of overcut them. It's very hard to do. Often in ACC, the undercut will be stronger. You have the fresher tires, you know, the lap times come down. But you can force people into a strategy that they don't like, and that sometimes will benefit you. So it'll be interesting to see where it comes in. I mean, if we were going by a regular strategy, we would expect a lot of drivers to be in the pits around about the half an hour mark, halfway into the race, take fuel, take tires, or whatever whatever such want to do.
Oh, that lap car there, giving them the ultimate courtesy, but it's so scary, especially in Forest Elbow. It's so scary. Like the lap car didn't do anything wrong, but it's such a scary moment there. anything could happen. The lap car could twitch. One of these three fighting each other could have a moment as here they come up to the chase down the Conrad. Is it going to be a pass done? I think it will be. There's going to
Oh,
be contact between Jason Tyler LaValle and Harry Conway, and they all go through. Dylan as well gets it done. And for LaValle, that was a very unfortunate moment. It's going to be damage for everybody. But what about Triple R's Harry Conway?
yeah,
Dylan gets through.
Yeah, rejoining or recatching himself. Dylan got through, which is now pretty much exactly what Dylan wanted. He's bought one pass and got another free.
That's
now,
a BOGO. That is a BOGO.
Pretty much. So now it's time for him to lead the train in front and run away. But yeah, as he says, damage probably for the 28 of Conway and definitely damage for the 81 of LaValle.
For Chad Dillon, that is about as good as you could have drawn that up. Set in fourth place, stayed out of trouble, was catching Conway, who was catching LaValle. They have contact. You know that they have at least some sort of damage, albeit minor. They have some damage. You know you don't have any, as something has happened to Andrew Anderson here, perhaps, as he falls back a position or two. No, he doesn't. In fact, he's just letting lead lap cars through, but perhaps something in the Forest elbow right before that, because he was going dreadfully slow. Well, I don't know how to pronounce Jordan's name. Is it Sonor? Sonwa? I'm not entirely sure, and I tried to look his name up, Ryan. But here's what happens when you do. Google says, yeah, that's not a name, but it very clearly is, and I think Google is just a bit strange. So, for those of you in the chat that maybe know Jordan, could you please phonetically spell his name so we could pronounce it properly? But either way, he is absolutely dominating this race in the 199. I wonder if he knows what just happened behind him. He must do, because the 81 was 4 seconds behind him, and now a guy who was fourth place is now second, and you have 7+ seconds gap. So certainly you know likely contact occurred.
Yeah, you'll be keeping an eye on the relative and see what's going on with the drivers behind you. But yeah, now you've got that gap, it's almost sort of a, it takes the pressure off even more. You can sort of not relax, but you just know that, right, these guys are battling. So even if I have a lap or two that is not on my absolute pace, they're still not really going to gain. But we thought that it might be once Dylan got past that he was going to run away, but Harry Conway, determined as ever, got right back up to the back of the 77 Lamborghini. So now it's his turn to play the attacker rather than the defender.
Yes, indeed. And Chad, I don't know what to say. That was you take that pass, or those passes, with a cheeky little grin, but all of a sudden, now that Conway is not stuck behind LaValle, Conway has now caught back up to Dylan, and you wonder if this second place position is going to be short-lived. Conway, who pulled out of Night Out Season 3 after a string of bad finishes, showing you what he's capable of here today, and it's hard to argue. He's looking like a title contender early.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, huge gap so far. Definitely be interesting to see as it plays out through the series anyway. Especially good first round though, and like you said, you don't really want to use up your drop round immediately.
Well, one thing certainly for this race that does appear to be a bit different, as of course everybody now in lap traffic, you were right on the money, Ryan, when you said, and Jose Jorge is going to have to hit the escape here and go completely through the chase. He's going to slow down here, get back in line, but a scary moment. He knew that he was not going to make it, did Daniel Jose Jorge, and just hit the eject button.
Yeah, it looked like going through too wide with the 119 of Rogers, and perhaps a tiny bit of damage on the front of that car again as well. We've seen the sort of the telltale scrapes and scratches on the front of the car and the splitter, and I think, yeah, just going too wide through there if you've got front aero damage, you know, the front end will wash out very easily. He's touched the grass and just decided that the best course of action, rather than trying to fight the car into the corner, is just to to pick the nope button and just continue straight.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to do that before. It is a slightly embarrassing and very dangerous maneuver, but you know, the other option is taking out the car. You never want to just crash somebody like that. So sometimes hitting the eject button, as I call it, is the only solution that you have. And well, you definitely used it there to great effect. Now, I don't know what car that would have been in front that hit the grass, but they've done it again. Oh, and they've been crashed. Oh, and that
Wow.
is the 732 in crisis, nearly avoided there as we saw the dirt several times. And I was wondering if there was a crashed car up in front of them. And indeed, there was in a blind spot. Very dangerous.
Change of underwear for the 77 needed in the pit stop. That would be, yeah, coming down the blind corners into the dipper. There's just a car sideways. You just got to pray that they are not on the racing line. I think both Lamborghinis got through there with no contact, but that was a close one.
Well, speaking of using your mulligan, a driver who we thought could be a force in this race and in this championship, Renoir, has had to tow to pit lane. The pro driver in the 732, crashing in the S's there, has towed to pit lane. So, talking about using your drop round early, I think that is exactly what the 732 is going to have to do.
And that's another damaged car. That's the number 80 of Fazal. We've seen quite now a couple of cars that are just picking up, you know, bits of damage, bits of here and there, which is often strange. You often quite see a lot of the crashes early on in the race, but it seems now that sort of the mid races are catching out the drivers. Maybe perhaps, you know, as the tires are starting to go off and traffic and all those types of conditions are just starting to catch people out.
I think we finally have a consensus on how to pronounce our leader's name. I think I was pronouncing it right, believe it or not, which, you know, a broken clock's work is right twice a day. But I think it is Sonwar or Sonwa, depending on what dialect you have. So I think we got it right by mistake there. And for those of you going, no, you're not pronouncing it right, I am American, and that is how we pronounce noir. So I do apologize if you think that's wrong, and it definitely is, but that is just the American accent. And now we go to the Yorkshire boy. Would you like to take a try and say his name?
Now of Sonwa. At least that's how I'd say it.
There it is. Yeah. Okay, so we're in agreement then, you and I.
Well, it's like someone in chat mentioned, it's like the French noir, and it's Sonwa.
Well, there you go. It's very much, I think, mystery solved for Sonwa in the leading 199 Audi. And Jordan is going to continue to lead here. I don't think, barring an incident, I don't think anybody's going to catch him here today. Looks like Conway has the second best car, but even still, I'm not sure if he has the car to erase an 8+ second gap, especially considering he's just now continuing to try and get around Dylan, and Dylan's not going to give him the inside up the mountain straight. Is there going to be a move from the 28 of Conway? There will be to the outside. We have occasionally seen this move come off, but I don't think it will here. Not nearly close enough. And nose to tail again, and a little bit of slippage from Dylan there, and Conway going around the outside here. That's not what I would do in the cutting, and neither does he as he falls back in line. A little bit of perhaps desperation to try and get the pass in, but good, clean racing either way.
Yeah, really sort of showing what he can do in that 28 Lamborghini is Harry Conway. Like I said, we expected maybe once Dylan go past that would be sort of, you know, battle over. They'd been catching and that was that. But yeah, really not. I have a feeling that battle will run until the end. And this is the 197 of Jay Daly trying to do the same move around the outside of the Porsche.
Oh, that was a scary moment.
Just holds it.
we're going to see that again. Trying to go around the outside of the Porsche here. And was there contact between the two of them? I don't think there was. I just went a bit too wide, not enough grip on the outside. And that actually didn't even show it. But folks, that was a mega moment. And add Jordan Daly to the teams. He's going to need some Crest Pro Health toothpaste, but he's also going to need a fresh pair of tidy whities because that was a heck of a slide.
Yeah, the marbles on the outside, they just completely erase all your grip. It's where all the balled up rubber and the sort of rubbish that's flicked off the race cars, all the dust, all of everything is chucked off the road to that corner. So as much as you can go around the outside, it is just so scary as soon as you move off the racing line there.
We do have more mysteries with the 199. Some of the folks in chat questioning if Jordan is even a he. That's a very valid question. We might have that written down somewhere. But also news coming in from Tom Bryant of RCI, or RCI Tom as he's known. Daniel Jose Jorge's, who was running inside the top 5, has had to retire due to mechanical issues with his wheel.
Yeah, it's another a sad moment, another retiree, one of the familiar names from last season. But as we mentioned earlier, we do have that drop round. Even if you didn't necessarily want to use it in the first race, it doesn't mean that you're out of the running.
Well, I can tell you one person who is super focused right now, but would be absolutely ecstatic to this point. That's going to be Benny Heilman in the 24 Porsche. A Porsche in this championship? Benny, are you kidding me? He is a broadcaster here at RCI. I do a series with him every week, the Diamond Drive Cup, as well as he does many other series as well. And he gets to race on a late Saturday night. It might even be Sunday morning for him in Germany. But either way, he did sort of mediocre, I would say, in season 3, but he is absolutely on it in that Porsche right now. I can't. Is his name Porcupines, as in Porsche Cupines? Oh dear Stewie, we are going to have a long talk this Wednesday for that team.
Still going quite well though. Currently P2 it is in the silver class, but yeah, or is it Porsche Cup Pines, like a Porsche Cup?
It is. I just thought that in my head. It is Porcupines because of the Porsche Cup. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't. Here's the thing. No matter how mad I am, I have to listen to him because he is my broadcaster. I see what he's done there. Very, very brilliant indeed. Tom Bryant has more information. Tom Oddie, who is doing well in this race, has also retired with technical issues on his car. And he was in, of course, the silver class. He was doing very well inside the top 15 overall. In the top, I think he was inside the top 5 in his class. So he has had to retire, as Jordan Daly and several others coming into the pit lane, including Pierce and Norton, all in the pit lane at the halfway mark. Well, if your race has gone well and you haven't been stuck in traffic, I feel like right now is the perfect time to get in there and get that pit stop done.
Yeah, we sort of expected a lot of the drivers to be the standard for when you give the drivers this sort of ultimatum of, you don't have to, there is no requirements on the pit stop. A lot of the times the fastest way is to go half and half. You don't have to do anything with it. So it will be interesting to see where people come out. We noticed that a couple of the early pitters from the sort of the front of the field included Lavalle. Obviously had that problem, pitted early. So as people filter out, we'll see where they come, and then we'll see what that does to this battle with Dillon and Conway. When the cars are this close, a good pit stop, you really need your pit stop to be absolutely on point. If you lose any time in the pits, you could easily lose a second or two in a pit stop, and then you'll battle for another half an hour to gain even a couple of tenths back on some drivers.
Well, look at this. This is something that I wouldn't have expected. Mike Jones has not pitted yet, but I don't think there's a mark on that number 14 Crest Pro Health McLaren, but he is sort of fighting Knappen. Knappen's already pitted, but still, a fight is a fight is a fight, and this is for 12th at the moment. Be interesting to see just how much pressure Mike Jones puts on Knappen in the pro class.
The other way to look at it as well is if you know that maybe you're not going to get by by that driver, but you are Mike Jones, you just let the faster car, the faster driver, tow you along with a slipstream. You just get free time.
Well, Mike Jones had to completely relearn how to drive a sim because he was playing Project Cars 2 earlier this afternoon with some of the other RCI staff. And, well, I'm not going to say too much about that game, but, well, let's just say that the handling characteristics are very different indeed.
He's had to relearn what grip is.
You have to relearn what cars are. It's absolutely, there is no correlation between a Clio Cup car, which is what he was racing in Project Cars 2, and that McLaren he's in now. So he had to very quickly. Not only did he have to reset the server that was had some erroneous information in it, then he had to go out and practice and relearn how to drive a McLaren. So he's had his share of battles today. Jordan has not had any battles today. His biggest battle was qualifying on the pole position. He has absolutely nailed it here so far. And here we have the pass. Could this be it? Down through the chase. Could this be the one? It looks like Conway's going to have the position on the inside, but the position not yet won. What does Dylan do? Does not duck down the pit lane as they will maintain side by side. Conway on the outside, Dylan on the inside, neither one giving an inch, but position is not conceded as Dylan continues to take the second place. Conway takes a look into hell corner, can't do nothing with it. And if I am Harry Conway, I start to get a little frustrated.
Yeah, that's great racing though between each other. Gave each other the space, gave each other the respect. And we're just going to see a quick action replay of that round the last corner. Barely an inch between the cars. So yeah, position kept for Dylan just about. He knew that even though Harry can go around the outside of that, if you can keep hanging it around the outside, then you have the inside for 2 corners, which lead onto the straight. And if you can keep it then up to the mountain, there's really nowhere you can overtake by then.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, they are racing completely clean. Hats off to both of them in similar machinery, similar by manufacturer, of course. And they are out there. They're giving it their all for second. They know that realistically their race is for second, and no one giving an inch, no quarter ass, none given, but no bumps either. Completely clean, and that's what you like to see. Harry Conway will have known as a RCI staff member what happens to people that do not race cleanly, so he will have a great invested interest in doing so. As Jordan Daly continuing in the 14th place position, Norton behind him. So that pit stop did not change anything between these two. They came out they went in nose to tail, and they came out nose to tail.
Yeah, so both got a brilliant pit stop. We're looking on with the number 8 of Samir Foch being under attack from the 41 once again of TPS. We saw this Ferrari go around the Lamborghini at I think it was the last corner at one point. Sort of caught back up. Ferrari running wide again into the cutting. It seems to be sort of Ferrari corner. We're gonna have to rename that corner soon.
Ferrari cutting next week, I think, a little bit.
Ferrari cutting up for scrap with all the ones that crashed there.
Oh dear. Pour one out for all the Ferraris. That was the big incident to this point, was 3 Ferraris going off in the cutting, and it was so odd because there were Lamborghinis, Bentleys, AMGs, Porsches, the lot,
Yeah,
going by without incident. But every Ferrari, for whatever reason, that in this corner right here, for whatever reason on that particular lap, every Ferrari that went through there crashed, ended up backwards almost. It was very bizarre. Not used to seeing that. The track was not blocked in any way, but meanwhile, the Ferraris struggled with it as the temp has come down a little bit, just 1 degree. The wind has also lightened up a little bit. It was fairly significant headwind down the Conrad to start this race. Well, it isn't that anymore. It's nothing but a wee breeze, as the Scottish would say. No other change in the weather. Completely sunny here. A brilliant evening sport here on the mountain. And this man here, Sonwa, has absolutely dominated this race. I think the last time I saw it, it was about 12, nearly 13 seconds. He has come in for his pit stop since then. And that does give the lead to Dylan. But look at this down the chase, or down the Conrad, I should say.
Here we go again into the chase, side by side. And Dylan knows that. Nope, I was going to say he knows that if he can keep side by side, he can hang it round. But Harry Conway on the brakes gets the position done.
Well, down the pit lane is Dylan now, I think. Yes, indeed. Dylan down pit lane. And I've waited a very long time to be able to say this. Leader of the race, Harry Conway in the Triple R Lamborghini. And I have waited a very long time to be able to say that. Well done, Harry Conway. And everybody in the chat, cheer on your man. I know there's a lot of Conway fans out there, and he is currently leading the race now. It'll be interesting to see. He has elected to stay out. I would assume he is trying to make time up on Dylan so he can leapfrog him when he eventually pits.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, the overcut. So I think now that's sort of the signal to Conway to to push and go. You'll have a very low fueled car at that point now. You can sort of get the maximum lap times out of it. So yeah, you've got to now make up your time. So when you come out of the pits, hopefully the person you were battling, you've got a good enough air gap, and then you've all fueled up and you're ready to roll. So we'll see what happens. A couple of people still left to pit. There is the silver class leader of Rogers, the 119. They seem to be electing to go long. Akar in the BMW. Heilman and Brunier also electing to go long. Lifferland, McConnell, and leader. Those are the last cars to pit. Everyone else has taken their mandatory.
I don't hate the strategy of staying out late. Perhaps you're on a particular part of the track where you don't have a lot of traffic. You're able to run your pace and, stay out a little bit later. Try to make something happen. I don't disagree with that at all, but you got to be very careful. You can find yourself in trouble. As Jordan Daly here, Norton continuing to try and get by him. I feel like they've been together for the past 20 minutes or so. Round the outside is Norton, but has no grip, can't quite do it. And Daly with the defensive line will maintain that position and increase the gap ever so slightly. But I feel like that Bentley looming large at the end of every straightaway. Meanwhile, here is Jordan in the 199. They are the first of the cars that have pitted down into the fourth place position, but they have a 4-second gap on Dylan. So what does that tell you about the 199's pit strategy?
Yeah, they do seem to have lost a bit of time in the pits. I mean, looking at the pit deltas, so the number 77 of Dylan had a 39-second pit delta, and Sunwa had a 50-second pit delta. So that is almost an extra 10-second stop. That could, though, be a fuel load, but once again, you won't kind of expect that, not with 20 minutes to go.
Well, you saw LaValle get through there trying to get by Lithland, who hadn't pitted. Well, here is the battle between Daly and Norton again.
Yeah, you mentioned it looming large at the end of every straight is that Bentley. Can they hang it around the outside? Just about a little bit on the grass.
Smart move by Norton there. He could have pressed his luck and pressed up there and tried to get a fender in on Daly there, but decided, I'm on the grass, probably better I don't do that. Oh, but it will come to contact. Hopping the curb is Norton and spinning Jordan Daly around off the final turn. You don't often see accidents there, but a mental mistake, a curb hop, and a spin.
Yes, just about to see. It's so easy to do, though. That curb is much, much larger than you think it to be. We're also having a brief action replay with the BMW of our car. It looks like there's some damage on the front of that car as well.
Well, that's interesting as well. Well, if you've already done your pit stop, That is very worrying, isn't it, for your overall pace?
But I believe the 32, yes, the 32 still has yet to pit. They have still not got their mandatory, so they obviously put a lot of fuel in that car to go this long.
There's definitely some damage there. Actually, just now, that's the first time I saw Acar's 32 BMW, and they will come into pit lane right now, pitting out of the fifth place position. I would assume they would get that damage addressed in the pit lane.
Yeah, you would think so. It really depends how much it's affecting the car, but with the amount of front damage that car's got, I would say so. I'd say that they would fix that and continue on rather than just a splash and dash.
Harry Conway continues to lead the race. Still yet to pit. Him and Rogers are in front of the 199, who had a 13-second lead before the pit stop cycle commenced for the top five. Conway's and Rogers has to come in at some point, but for Conway, you have to assume it is about getting as much gap to Dillon for second place. Valuable championship points here for Conway and Dillon. And Conway looked like he was the quicker of the two, but just didn't quite have enough to make the pass, but definitely caught him. This could be all he needs, a few laps out in clean air. And for Sonwa, it has just been a demolition derby day for him. He has demolished all the competition, but lost quite a bit on that pit stop. He had 13 seconds on Dillon. When they came out of the pit lane, he only had about 4 seconds. Well, that has gone up by a couple of tenths. We'll have to keep an eye on that to see if that gap continues to go out.
Yes, and as you mentioned, it makes the pass even harder when you're in matched machines. You know, we were watching Lamborghini versus Lamborghini. You know, neither car has a speed advantage or a handling advantage or anything. You are just down to driving the wheels off of it.
Just trying to see if Akar has had repairs on the front of that BMW. I think he might, but he finds himself in a fight with Pierce behind him. That's not a fight for position in class, but that is a fight for overall position. Pierce would very much like to get around the 32 Bentley so he can go up and challenge Devonshire in the 14th place.
Yeah, that was a 1:13 pit delta. So yeah, I would say that 32 they've had a bit of a you know, buffed the paint out and stuck a new bonnet on it and told him it's all good. It's all good to go now.
The car definitely does look better, and the pace seems to be returning to the 32. A little bit of work here to do. You need to first get by Joshua Devonshire and then track down folks in the 8. Not a monumental task by any stretch. It's only about, 4 seconds, I would say, the gap.
Yeah, it looks about that. So we'll see what the BMW can do. It did show quite a good pace early on in the race, and yeah, just sort of lost it with the crash. So we'll see what they can do when they filter back up to the traffic in front.
Let's pay attention here. Harry Conway's last lap was a 2:01.560. I'd like to see what Sonwa does when the 199 comes across the line. Keep that in mind, the 2:01.5. And for Sonwa, it's going to be pretty much the same thing. So Harry Conway is matching the pace of the 199 right about now.
Yeah, at the moment that would be. So that definitely will bring it'll bring that battle very interesting. It says Samoa lost quite a lot of time in the pits, so we'll see what Conway can do. I don't know if it is enough to inherit the lead of the race, but it's definitely going to bunch that pack all the way up.
Well, it wouldn't be an RCI race if in the last 15 minutes or so it didn't get incredibly close, and strategy changes everything.
We've got last another one of the late pitters in. It's the 23 of McConnell taking their pit in the silver class. We see Akar has got right up to the back of Devonshire. Under attack from the
Oh,
Ferrari. He's going a bit wide as well. Welcome to middle car syndrome. You've got to be careful attacking the person in front, and you've got to keep your eyes on the mirror, keep your eyes on the prize and in the mirrors.
I gotta tell you, Ryan, if I was Pierce right now, I would not be that aggressive. I would be sort of laying back, waiting for that big BMW to open up a gap and gain a position in class here. I wouldn't be too worried about overtaking the BMW. You have to assume that he's going to get by at some point, as everybody now trying to filter through the lap traffic. Oh, it's going to be a touch right there between the two of them. Of course, that the Bentley getting past of Devonshire, and that is place gains. So persistence, but perhaps patient, pays off for Pierce as he gains the 14th place position and a position in class to Devonshire.
Yeah, you've a lot of times if you know that the car in front is a faster car, you just sort of wait and let them part the traffic for you for your own class. Especially that BM if you're going in a straight line. I mean, there's not a lot of cars really that can match a BMW for straight line speed. I mean, maybe a Honda here, but the BM overall, one that is an absolute rocket in a straight line. We saw it on the wing cam, just pulling away from the Ferrari, even though the Ferrari was in the slipstream.
Well, there's no replacement for displacement, and even in GT racing, that is still the truth in a lot of the cases, especially down long straightaways. Not so important in the corners, mind you. But now, this is Mike Jones who has pitted. He's got Herzog behind him, and they will be fighting for the 22nd position, and more importantly, perhaps, a place in the silver class. Now, I've not seen Mike Jones do much defending in his racing career. He's not really struck me as a defensive driver, but I suspect he might turn into one here.
Yeah, you want to see how wide you can make that McLaren down the mountain. Ooh. Leading Lamborghini through.
A little flash of the lights there. Not happy is Herzog there with the way that he was sort of moved out of the way by the leader of the race.
Yeah, showing his displeasure. Dive up the inside of Hell Corner. This is, I think, when people say they're sending it, I think he's going to have to pay for international postage on that one.
I reckon he will. He's actually flashing Mike. Excuse me. That was Dylan. Dylan's car and Harry Conway's car look similar. Both Lamborghinis, of course, but I don't mind the flashing of the lights in that case. If I'm Herzog, I'd be a little upset that that was a huge lunge and a dive. But seeing it from the leader Harry Conway's perspective as well, I gotta go, man. At this point, it's hard to argue that he is trying to win the race. He's matching the leader's pace. Anything can happen in 10 minutes, so you got to get a move on. Got to get all the time, or save all the time you can. No time to wait. So, all things considered, I can see it from both sides. But for Herzog, it definitely set them back. They were within a second, and that pushed them well outside a second. As the adventures of Atakan Akar continue in this race, up into the 13th place, and about 5 seconds, actually 4.7 seconds behind Foch in the 8 Lamborghini, but being overtaken here by Sones is Joshua Devonshire.
Yeah, Audi laid on the brakes up the inside of Chase, sort of almost making it look a little bit easy, doesn't it? The Audi's going very well here. The mid-engines seem to be having quite a happy race. we swap back to Mike Jones. The Herzog has sort of slowly started to catch back up again. We're around about what we were a lap ago. So yeah, we'll see what Mike Jones can do defensive driving style. How wide can he make that McLaren down the straight? You got a Ferrari behind you, and they have the slipstream. And amazing speed sometimes from the Ferrari. We can see them closing in. Could it be a move into the chase? Which side will Mike go? He'll go defensive.
Well, he's definitely going to have to defend, but the question is, can he do it for 8.5 more minutes?
Yes, that is definitely one to think about. And says, I know I'd be a little bit nervous if I had a Ferrari behind me, especially with how fast these things are down the straights. Once you've got to the mountain, I have a feeling that the McLaren will be way better.
Look at this.
Trying to break the toe.
I love the gamesmanship. I love it. I love it so much. Like that, literally, I have preached to drivers that I have coached that literally does absolutely nothing. But as a driver, you do, if you had a lever in your car that said gives extra 10 horsepower, but it did nothing, you would still pull it down the straightaway. That's the mentality of a racing driver. And try any sort of gamesmanship, anything you can do to perhaps, if you're the chasing driver, you have a plan of what you're going to do. And as the lead driver, the defending driver, it is your job to attempt to mess up their plans. And sometimes that game is mostly mental. And I think that's what that is, switching lanes down a straightaway like that.
Yeah, trying to break the toe of the Ferrari, just throw them off a little bit as we go down the mountain into the dip. And we've seen usually sort of, yeah, the gap has stabilized around about what it does. And then you see coming through Forest Elbow and down the straights.
Ooh,
hard up to the back.
Big lunge.
Hard up to the back.
He is he's on his way to the post box with that one, but just about got it stopped. Let's see that again.
Let's see from the back of the Mike Jones McLaren. Woohoo!
Hello there, Mr. Postman.
But now you see the problem with that, with doing lunges like that into Forest Elbow, is you actually compromise your exit going down straight. So although that could have been a pass had they been close enough, it wasn't to be down the straight.
Well, I think something's happened back here because Devonshire is back into 15th, and I'm pretty sure he was 16th a lap ago, unless I'm losing my marbles. IPEC here now in the 16th place position. Devonshire back up inside the top 15 overall.
And Atakan Akar catching back up to Samir Foch. And we did say that it wasn't a great mountain to climb, really. You know, there was a little bit of time ahead. It was like sort of 2 seconds to the car in front. And now this is for a position in his class. And
well, he's got Pierce behind him, who's not
right
giving up.
Tucked right under the wing, continuing to fight it. Either that, or Pierce is using the BMW to catch up to the Bentley of Norton.
Well, the Boffins in the chat seem to think that Harry Conway is going to pit on the last lap or next to the last lap. I can't disagree with that, especially since there's only 5 minutes left to go. And I think that's the correct strategy for Harry Conway, who is very fast indeed. We'll know about what the gap is between him and the 199. Rogers is trying to make his strategy work for a silver win over Benjamin Heilman. And, of course, Seb Brunier. We haven't talked about Seb Brunier all day. Look at him late in this race running into the third spot. The to checkered flag no matter what. Now, that is a message, inspirational message to live by, isn't it, from Seb Brunier? And for all the bad luck Seb Brunier has had in Night Owl, it has not deterred him from coming into this championship. And for the Frenchman, it has been a fantastic day on the mountain in the McLaren, and Rogers is in the pit lane. Now, will Heilman get out in front of Rogers, I wonder, and where will Seb Bernier be? Oh, Harry
Yeah,
Conway's out of the pit lane.
that he is. And I believe that is Dylan just about in the background. The fluoro yellow Lamborghini, one easy to spot. So where has Sunwar gone?
Well, he's up in front,
Up,
but the
yep.
gap is not 13 seconds. It's actually a bit shorter than that. It is 8.8 seconds, the gap between Sonwa and Conway. So job done for Harry Conway, getting in front of the 77 and looking like a second place finish unless he can pull out, well, quite frankly, the quickest laps of the race. But anything possible. And look at here, Mike Jones, who is still defending Herzog, and they still haven't resolved it.
No, we're going to have, depending on where the leaders are, most likely 2 more laps. So if Herzog really wants that position, he's going to have to get a shuffle on. We've seen a lot of times the McLaren, Mike Jones manages to hold it over the mountain and the gap sort of stabilizes. And then it's always a battle coming down the straight and always a battle coming into the chase. Just depends what you can do that time. You see each car down Conrad. Drafting is the Ferrari. And that's the 81 of Sounds, I believe. Sort of watching this battle from afar.
Nathan McConnell in a fight with Fazel. And of course, McConnell trying to get by Devonshire for what will be the 16th place position. Meanwhile, Mike Jones heavily defensive into the final turn. Will know he has just about 2 laps left to go. Well, you've defended for 5 of them, mate. 2 to go as a little cheeky look by Herzog into hell corner. Nothing doing, though. Not close enough. And somehow, I don't wish this on anybody, but I get the feeling that this pass may include some contact here coming to the line.
Might do. Ooh, speaking of contact.
Oh, dear. Forrest Elbow getting some attention finally. Hasn't been a big problem spot today. What happens to the 32 here, Ryan?
I believe this is the Ferrari of Pierce catching up. Oh, no, a wall touch for the 32. Pierce tries to go through, and it's just...
Oh!
It's so slippery on that offline coming down the mountain. 2 into 1 sometimes does not go.
Well, Pierce will be frustrated because he'll make the argument that he could have potentially caught up to leader in 10th place for silver, but going off is the 23 of McConnell. McConnell's going to shed several spots as Joshua Devonshire continues to hold on to 16th place. McConnell goes off. Faisal will be in the 17th place position. And meanwhile, Pierce continuing to fight here, but now being passed by Solnes, which that won't make him very happy coming to the line, I don't think.
Now you've got pretty much maybe another lap after, because this is our leader, the 199, coming around the final corner. So this will be his final lap.
Oh, but here we go again. Mike Jones down to the inside, super defensive, coming through the chase. Can he hold him off? I think he'll just do that. He will know 1 more lap to go. Herzog has about, by my estimation, 3 more chances, 3 more passing zones on the final lap. And that is for a top 20 position. I think that's just for about 10th in silver, too. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure this is for the 10th place position in silver for the day. And it is very close indeed. But very quickly, let's talk about Sonwa and the 199. We're going to stay with this battle, but I'm going to talk about the leader, Sonwa. Give him his shine. He qualified on pole by a tiny amount. Going around the outside is Herzog. It's not going to come off. Dirty out there. You can't quite get the grip you need. Going the long way around, and position defended by Mike Jones. The 69 is off. And
69.
well off the track.
69 is off in the chase, yep.
But what about Jordan Sunwa here? Has absolutely dominated this race, qualified on pole over LaValle by only half a tenth. We thought it was going to be close. It couldn't have been further from the truth. 13-second lead at one point before the pit stop. Had a slower pit stop, but was never in any real danger from Harry Conway or Dylan. Absolutely dominant. The Peepo Clown Sport team is going to be absolutely loving this. Their debut in Night Owl, and it's looking like they're going to win the whole thing.
They get to now join, as we said earlier, historically in the last 4 races, only one of the fastest qualifying cars had won Bathurst, but not today. Pole setter 199 Sonwa crosses the line in first.
Well, Harry Conway has a little bit of work to do as Dylan has caught back up to him, but it's going to be just a little too late. Harry Conway in Triple R is going to come across the line for second. What a strong start for Conway. Meanwhile, Mike Jones has lost the 20th spot for Herzog. Herzog has got in front of him, and on the final lap through the chase, coming to the line, Herzog's going to take 20th. Mike Jones will have to settle for 21st place. And an absolute stunning finishes all around here as many of the cars, some 30 plus in this race, continue to fight to the line.
Yeah, and now, right, not to the end. This is the battle that we said might happen. The 32 has got right back up to the 8. What can they do coming down Conrad? I mean, I said it's a Lamborghini, but now you've got that giant V8 twin-turbo BMW behind you. An amazing straight-line speed car, but it might just be a little bit too little too late. They are quite a while away, gaining and gaining down the straight.
Oh, he's gonna have to lunge. He's going
No.
up the inside outside. He's gonna try the crossover perhaps, but battles all the way to the line here. The 93 trying to beat IPEC. It's not going to happen. Sones is going to fall behind IPEC, and Samir Foch is going to probably, yes, hold off Eckhart for the 6th place position in Pro. Well done, as everybody making it to the line with a little bit of bumping, but nothing that I would say would draw the ire of the stewards, as it has been a majority clean day as the final finishers do come across the line to finish the race. The 199 has won it for Peepo Clown Esports, and what a day for them. What a day for Audi, and excellent stuff indeed. And I'm very curious who actually won in silver. Now, I'm not entirely sure. It's looking like it's going to be Rogers, in fact, who won in silver. So the podium is going to be Rogers, Heilman, and Seb Brunier, as Rogers wins it after a very late pit stop. Strategy working for the 119. Heilman is rewarded for having a fantastic race, and so is Seb Brunier in the 777. That is your podium in silver. And wow, what a race. I am shocked at how clean that race actually was.
Yeah, incredibly clean. We're basically the only, I mean, in air quotation marks, big accident we had was those 3 Ferraris that went off in the cutting. That was pretty much it. We've had a couple of dings, a couple of sort of self-inflicted damage, but other than that, for Bathurst, which is a very, very difficult track to drive around, very clean. And yeah, battles right into the line, going through the chase, still trying to get that last position on the line. Just those extra couple of points that might net you the championship at the end of the season.
Well, folks, if you like that race, if you want more, like, subscribe, hit that bell. We are racing most days of the week here at RCI TV. Don't miss a single one of those. We've got racing coming up all week long. And I believe the Friday championship starts this coming week, or maybe it's in 2 weeks, but nevertheless, there are ongoing series. And of course, the season opener, and what an opener it was. And we will have another race next Saturday at the same time, but nobody knows, not even us, what the pit requirement will be for race number 2. For the 199, it was a fantastic day, and the same for Rogers as well, as both of them get an early lead for several drivers, including Daniel Jose Jorges. He is going to have to regroup after mechanical issues. A very clean race with only a few local yellows and self initiated spins. What a fantastic day. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to all of our partners here at RCI that help us do what we do every single stream. More information about them in the description. And if you're interested in racing with us, no need to just watch. We have splits for all different skill levels from Alien Esports to I just bought a wheel. Our Discord's in the description as well. Join us, get involved. We would absolutely love to have you. Well, racing all week this week. Tune in and join us here at RCI TV. On behalf of myself, Jesse Lee, Ryan Mawson, and Jake the Bosmeister Boswell, thank you all for watching us tonight, and we'll see you next time.
See you on the next one.